Sorry about that, friends. Took me a second to get that going. I apologize. I tried to go live to X and it didn't work. Sorry about that. Audio looks so good. I think we're ready to go. This is Sam Disraelly coming to you. Boy, that didn't work. This is Sam Disraelly coming to you live from your tech department here in Fairfield County, Connecticut. And they are at it again. This is your cyber news for February 7th, 2025. We're talking about the Community Health Center breach that just got publicized, just got notified. About 1 million people got letters from a corporation out of Middletown, Connecticut called Community Health Center. Let's actually bring it up. And 1 million Connecticut residents have been breached because Community Health Center didn't want to invest in their security. It's pretty much that simple. Let's see some of the reports that actually got my attention today.
For 1 million people in Connecticut are waking up this morning to find their personal information may have been compromised in a healthcare data breach. We spoke Connecticut's Mark Sudol joins us from our newsroom. He has more on the story. Mark.
Becky, the breach involves a community health center, which has locations all across the state, and here in Norwalk, Stamford, Stratford, Greenwich, and Danbury. Attorney General William Tong said about 575,000 patients had all of their personal health information compromised. That includes Social Security numbers and COVID-19 vaccination records. He says an additional 571,000 people had just their vaccination records exposed, and 4,200 employees were also impacted. The Community Health Center said information that has been accessed could include your diagnosis, treatment details, test results, and health insurance, too. In a letter to patients, the health clinic said they believe the hacker was stopped within hours, and there's no sign the information has been misused.
No sign the information has been misused.
The Health Center posted a statement on its website. Here's part of what it says. A skilled criminal hacker got into our system and took some data, which might include your personal information. We strengthened our security and added special software to watch for suspicious activity. A cybersecurity expert at the University of New Haven says this can cause a real risk for people.
This is where things get interesting.
Unauthorized disclosure of healthcare information such as diagnosis, test results, and medications that patients may be on can be a breach of personal privacy as well as professional privacy.
Yeah.
Everyone impacted by the breach will be notified by the agency. Patients will also receive 24 months of credit monitoring at no cost. The Attorney General said the breach occurred through a vendor within approved software. It was reported on October 14th of last year, and the breach was discovered on January 2nd. In the newsroom, Mark Sudol, News 12 Connecticut.
Let's hear more from that expert.
But now
This is another news report out of Connecticut.
Risk according to census data. This was a nationwide breach, but the vast majority of patients are from Connecticut. Attorney General William Tong says 575,000 of them had all of their personal health information taken. Another 571,000 had some of their information breached, and over 4,000 employees were impacted. In a letter to patients, the health clinic says they believe the hacker was stopped within hours, and there's no sign the information has been misused.
The primary concern in these scenarios is identity theft.
No! No, it's not!
Expert Vahid Bezadin says a breach with this type of information can cause a real risk for consumers. He warns impacted patients to stay vigilant for suspicious activity in your credit profile or insurance, and to look out for suspicious messages coming from people pretending to be a healthcare provider or from insurance.
Unauthorized disclosure of healthcare information such as diagnosis, test results, and medications that patients may be on can be a breach of personal privacy as well as professional privacy.
He recommends data holders like the community health center do routine vulnerability and security monitoring to try to get ahead of any breaches. In light of this, the clinic says they're strengthening their security and adding software to watch for suspicious activity.
I want to go back to him just for a second. That one.
But now 1 in 3 people at 4,000 they believe the hacker was stopped within hours, and there's no sign the information has been misused.
The primary concern in these scenarios is identity theft.
I'm sorry. I don't want to. The last thing I would want to do is contradict an academic. However, that was the primary problem 5 years ago. Now the primary problem is that the hackers are going to use this information and do coordinated, targeted spear phishing attacks where they can now prove that they are a trusted vendor and get people, victims, to give them more information or access to more data, credit card information, or maybe even potentially their machines. Okay, this is what's actually going to happen. Let's actually look at what the breach information said specifically. By the way, actually, I'm going to take a half a step back and show you. This is the community health center website. This is actually blown up full screen. If I take it out of full screen, it will actually, you'll see less of their screen. But when I blow it up, now, if I'm not blown up full screen, I have to scroll down to see this information. This is a 1080p monitor, and their information about their breach is not front and center and top line on their website. Okay? It should be where this blue bar is. Okay? But no, they're hiding it down here, because for every person that takes them up on their credit monitoring, they have to pay. So it's actually, they've met the obligation. It's on the first page of the website. I don't know if the law says it should be at the top, but I think morally it should be at the top, and it should be on the top for a year at least. We'll see what the politicians say about that. But let's go full screen again. And let's scroll. You can barely see it. This is actually what it would look like if it were normal. But now I'm actually going to go plain 100%. You got to scroll down. But let's actually go and look at the information. Okay. On January 2nd, we noticed unusual information. Now, again, I think there are legal obligations of these companies to report breaches that affect anything more than like 500 people. But yet this wasn't actually made public until maybe February 3rd, 4th, 5th. It's the 7th now. And because of the snow, it didn't cross my desk until today. What information, and this is what I always look at so closely, okay? By the way, I love how they soften the language. The semantics are just beautiful, okay? A skilled criminal hacker. They weren't just a criminal hacker. They weren't just a hacker. They were a skilled criminal hacker, meaning they must have been very good to breach our security. Got into our system and took some data. What's the difference between saying it took some, the hacker took some data and the hacker took data? What's the difference? Why is it important to say some data? Because then maybe you might believe that they didn't get the information that's relevant to you. Ridiculous, okay? Which might include your personal information. Either they are purposely using vague language, or they simply have no idea because they, and it's funny, if you look at those, if you listen to those two news reports again, nothing says anything about hiring forensic experts. No, nothing says running an incident response plan. They say something about, well, we've strengthened our security. Well, if you could have strengthened your security and it took you less than 30 days to implement, then you knew you could have made your security better, but you didn't. Why? Because it's cheaper to pay for credit monitoring for the people that take advantage of it than to actually secure the data in the first place. Just my opinion. You'd make your own judgment on that one. Fortunately, the criminal, again, they're not just a hacker, they're a criminal hacker. Why didn't they say skilled again? Did not delete or lock any of our data. That means, thankfully, we were able to continue operating while the hacker was inside. We noticed it on January 2nd. Can we actually verify that we know it was breached? They don't say that. For all we know, it could have been breached for 90 days. The average time a hacker is in place in a system of those good, skilled criminal hackers, they're in systems for 3 to 6 months before they're caught. Take that into account. Google that all by yourself. The average time is something over like 200 days. Okay? But they're saying we caught him within hours. Doesn't matter. He had access to 1 million people's data, and he was able to, as far as we know, he had access to it, which means he could have copied it and gotten it off of our servers. We believe we stopped the criminal hackers' access within hours. There's no current threat to our systems. Good, there's no current threat to your system. What about the threat to 1 million citizens and patrons of your services? Just curious. What information was evolved? This is always the best part. This might include, because again, they probably didn't hire a forensic expert and they don't actually know for certain what the guy got, what the hacker got, what the skilled criminal hacker got. Might include your name, date of birth, address, phone number, and here's the good stuff: email, diagnoses, treatment details, test results, and here's the real good one: social security number and health information, insurance information. Okay? And the last paragraph, if you happen to get a COVID test, the personal information might be more limited, but for example, for testing only patients, the date of test and result information was involved. Okay? Or vaccine. Here's the thing that I think is relevant and what I think we're going to end up seeing coming out of this breach. Here's my prophecy, let's say. Okay? We're not going to see people. Yes, it's nice that they got the social security numbers. Okay, that's special. That raises the level of the breach to a higher level. Okay, and yes, therefore, there automatically is a risk to your credit report because they're acknowledging social security number information was there. Okay, identity theft can be harder and less monetarily beneficial to the customer, to the hackers. Okay, it takes them more than a minute to put together a full identity theft to apply for a credit card under your name and social security number. It takes a minute, and then once you've got that credit card back and forth in the mail or whatnot, maybe you're applying for a virtual card. Then they have to go out and spend it. Okay. Or they do a cash withdrawal directly off of it. Here's what I think is actually going to be the scam that we see in 6 weeks to 6 months as a result of this breach. Because emails, names, birth dates, addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses. And for example, the vaccine patients, the dose and date administered may also have been involved. This is the scam I think we're going to see that comes out of this. For some reason, I keep losing my my stream deck. This is the hack we're going to see, the scam we're going to see out of it. Somewhere between 6 weeks, maybe even less, could be 2 weeks, could be 6 months from now, 500,000 people in the state of Connecticut are all going to start getting emails that say, it's time for your booster shot. Log into our website and schedule your booster at your local facility. It's going to be a nice website. It's going to look professional. It's going to let you schedule yourself for something like 2 or 3 weeks out in advance, because that's when you're due. The email might even say 30 days until your booster shot. And they're going to, the people are going to be able to, it's going to look completely legitimate. It's going to recognize, it's going to have your name. It's going to have, this is your last four of your social, or this is your health insurance. It's going to say nice things like, this is, only going to be $5 or $10 or $15 with your health insurance. And it's going to let them book a date 4 weeks out in advance, because people are going to forget about it. And at the end of that, it's going to say, would you like to update your payment information? And it's going to give you the option to enter your credit card. And because every step along the way between the email and the website and the scheduling, there's not going to be a single bell that rings in 10% of these people's minds. 500,000 people are going to get these emails, and even if it's just 1%, that's 5,000 people are going to click on this link, and they're going to think this is completely legitimate. And they're going to get to the end of that form, and they're going to say, well, they knew everything else about me. They knew when I had my last COVID shot. And that's why I think it's going to be 6 months from now, because they want people to forget that the breach happened. It's going to be 6 months from now, and it's going to say, you're up for your booster. And they're going to get to that last page, and it's going to say, update your health insurance information, update your credit card for the $5 fee, or can we upgrade you, or can we send you tests for, you only have to pay for the shipping, put it in your credit card. And that's where they're going to get their money. These hackers are going to get their money. Okay. They're going to end up with, even if it's 1% of people that fall for this, they're going to end up with payment information, whether it's fresh insurance information, whether it's a credit card information. Some people may even let them pay via, entering their ACH, debit information. Oh, sure, just put in your routing number and your account number, and we'll just draft the money out of your account for the $5. Okay, people are going to give it. They're going to get, even if they get 1% of the people breached because they got so much personal information, they're going to get 5,000 people's payment information, and they're going to hit every single one of those credit cards for $500 to $1,000 a piece. And then they're going to be gone. And they could do it for $50 and nobody would even notice. 5,000 people, hit for some, weird, health charge for $50. That's $250,000. That's a good payday. And that's, of course, if you trust the company for the fact that they're saying they didn't get ransomware, they didn't pay a ransom, they didn't, why did it take them 30 days to come forward about this breach? Because they wanted to be able to say we implemented new security methods. I don't know, because they wanted to give the hackers time to actually hit their clients before they came forward, and so they can say, well, that breach was because of us, or that scam email did come because we were breached. I don't know. While I can say I see things coming, I'm not actually clairvoyant. So I can't speak to the mindsets of corporate CEOs and attorneys and all that good stuff. But when an academic expert from New Haven University or whatever says the biggest thing we're concerned about is identity theft, I think he's wrong. I think that might have been the biggest concern. And it is, don't get me wrong, it is a legitimate concern. It's absolutely a legitimate concern. But I think there's faster and easier ways for these guys to get money. And I think the kind of information that this company left unsecured, because as we all know, it's cheaper to pay for the credit monitoring than to actually pay for it to be secured in the first place. At least that's the calculus that these big corporations are doing. It's just a shame. It's just absolutely a shame. And I think people are going to be seeing the ramifications from this hack for, unfortunately, as it always is, for not just today, not just watching their credit for the next 24 months. The results of this hack, when this information ends up on the dark web, or when this hacker comes out of the woodwork and uses it in an organized, targeted spear phishing campaign with all of this information, so they look good and trustworthy when those emails come in, because that's what the hackers are doing. They want to get by your defenses. So all you can do right now is keep an eye on your data and be skeptical of, use good automated and AI tools. If you're running a business and you're not using a corporate email scanner, you need to be. It's the cheapest, most effective defense you have. That strong passwords, I'm sounding like a broken record at this point. Those are the easiest thing. We can talk about network security. We can talk about VPNs. We can talk about zero trust. We have here at your tech department and your cyber team, we have at least 10 different tools that we bring to bear between advanced endpoint protection and response, endpoint detection and response protections, network security, DNS filtering, all of these good things. And the DNS filtering is actually very cost effective and very helpful too. But your biggest attack surface is your email. It's how your business corresponds with people outside a million times every day. If you're a one-person business, it's hundreds of times every day. But if you're a large corporation with 50 or 100 people, your business is thousands of times. The bigger the company, it's millions of times every day. That is so critical, so critical, that you're taking advantage of the right technologies that can help protect you. It's unlike the big security, and I don't want to get into a rant. I decided I didn't want to attack the politicians for not moving fast enough on this, because small businesses, if a hack like this happens and they have to pay for credit monitoring on 5,000 people, that's $500,000 they have to pay. That's going to sink a small business. So imagine that if your CPA firm, if your attorney company, your law firm, bookkeeping, marketing, if you have a client list or a marketing list that has names, email addresses, any kind of even the most basic personal information, addresses, telephone numbers, you're still bound by the FTC's obligations of paying for credit monitoring if you get breached. A small business that loses data with just as much as 5,000 people or even 1,000 people, 1,000 person breach could cost you upwards of $100,000, and just in paying for the credit monitoring alone. Okay, but these big corporations, they get an economy of scale from companies like the company that's doing this this breach mitigation services from this company up here, this IDX. Okay, they're gonna get a breach. It's not going to cost them $100 to monitor the credit. First of all, not all million people are going to take them up on it, but more importantly, they're probably only paying $10 or $15 for that kind of credit monitoring. When it only affects 1,000 people, that credit monitoring is going to cost them $100 a person. When it's this big, I really got to fix that. So these big corporations can run a calculus that says it will be cheaper for us to pay for the credit monitoring than actually try to worry about securing all this data and all the ways that it goes in and out of our company. So they'll pay the $1 million or the $5 million because they're making $100 million. It's just a shame. So what can you do? Again, make sure you've got good, strong, especially if you've got control over your business, make sure you've got good, strong corporate protections on your email. Think critically about every email. You have to write a Post-it note on your monitor so that you remember for the next 2 years that your data was breached with medical information. So if somebody comes out of the woodwork and emails you, that's the one guy. We heard from that guy for a whole minute, and there was one line where he says, "Oh yeah, and keep an eye on the emails and be, question the emails that come in." No, that's the number one risk. So keep your eye on those. Be careful about where you put credit cards into the websites. Be careful who you got the information. Keep an eye on those EOBs from the insurance companies, because these guys could just put in fraudulent claims. They could just pretend that there's some doctor's office and file 500,000 fraudulent claims for $50. And how many people look closely at those EOBs? So watch your EOBs. Yes, if you were affected, take advantage of their credit monitoring. But if you've done any business with anybody, you have to watch critically think critically every step of the way when somebody says, we're going to send you an email and we're going to send you to a website, and that website asks you to put more information in. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching your cyber news. This is Sam Disraelly coming to you from your tech department in Fairfield County, Connecticut, saying keep an eye on your data and keep an eye on your cyber. And if you have questions about how this breach affects you, comment with the videos. If you liked anything that we were saying, as everybody is now putting these pitches in, give me a like, give me a thumbs up, ask me a question about how you can protect yourself, how you can make sure that the right protections are in place, at least for your company, to make sure you don't end up having to go to Attorney General in Hartford and say, we turned over people's data. Your tech department, based out of Fairfield County, Connecticut. Have a great day. And a great weekend. Thanks for watching.